make mistakes, thus is human nature, right? So why not look for the upside and find success when those failures do happen? Studio 5 contributor and Back to Basics founder Connie Sokol believes our mistakes can springboard us into better things. Okay, that sounds really good to say. It sounds really good coming out of my mouth. When you're actually living the mistake and feeling the failure, can it really be that positive?
Yes, it really can, because practice makes perfect.
Oh, Connie.
That's how I feel. No, in the moment, you know, it's Ben and Jerry's and a big thing of brownies and a good friend. That's what helps you get through it. So for sure, but we don't stay there, and that's the point. Is that what do we do with it? Rather than just sit and whine about it, what do we do?
Well, give me a timetable, because as I was thinking about this concept, failure is making us better. We know they make us grow, but there is kind of a healing process that has to happen before the sting can, dissipate and the actual reward can take over.
Absolutely, and it depends on the experience that you've gone through. There's the everyday fails, and then there's the big heartbreaking ones. And so you have to allow yourself that healing process, and that's what I think is important. Some of the things we can take away from failure is that this perception shift. We can embrace that failure isn't what we think it is all the time. It is a step. It's part of the package deal. It's a step toward the ultimate success that we're looking for. So maybe this didn't go well, or maybe that failed, or maybe you were doing the PTA dinner and it bombed. But what did you learn from that? These are things that we need to consider, because we're going to get in those situations again. So if we can pick out the pearls, we're going to be able to be better suited next time.
There's a buzzword out there that in the beginning, I think we attached to the entitled teenage generation. We wanted our kids to have grit.
Yes.
But you're kind of flipping that and really saying, is that a badge you're willing to wear? Do I have grit as a mom, as a wife, as a woman, as a mother? And failure can help us develop that.
Absolutely. And our kids are watching. They are watching how we handle the PTA bomb dinner. Are we, crying over a thing of Ben and Jerry's?
Honey, is there a PTA dinner we need to talk about?
It's in my subconscious. But I'm telling you, there's things that we do as moms. They watch us deal with children. They're watching me deal with my 4-year-old and his outbursts and temper tantrums, and watching how am I dealing with those fails right there in the grocery store. How am I doing that? And I feel like these failures are opportunities for us to teach our kids how to be strong, how to overcome. What are the techniques and the tips that we use to be able to overcome that? Because that's going to keep coming at us.
So where does the grit come from then? In the process of that failure, as we're navigating through these mistakes and trying to learn from them, trying to be a good example, at what point can we grab onto that grit and make it part of who we are?
Well, it depends on how we choose to use it. Maybe it's through a friend. Maybe it's through finding out some tips and tools. Maybe it's through inspirational experiences that we're listening to. We go, oh, I was there. That's what I can do. Instead of just laying on the floor, we go, now I have the thing to help me stand up again.
Another positive you point out is that failure can help us focus. It can help us really kind of chisel in on what we really want and what we really want to go after.
Absolutely. In fact, I think it helps us eliminate what we don't want to do and what doesn't work. Edison has been credited with the whole 1,000 thing. Actually, what I read was it was 3,000 theories that he had, and there were 2 viable things and 1 that was insanely successful. But the point being is that we're going to go through a lot of things that we don't want or that are not going to go well, and it's great to eliminate. Our son years ago did this job at this camp, and I will not say it, but it had just been built, this particular one, and so it was like the bathrooms weren't even finished, and he was wading through muck, and it was nothing but rain, and we worked it out that he made like 25 cents an hour that summer.
Goodness.
And after that summer, we said, what did you learn? He said, I will never ever do that again. And he literally is a thriving, successful young man, and I swear it goes back to I will never do that again. So those fails have value.
Well, we take heart, and we even champion those stories. You mentioned, Einstein. J.K. Rowling is another example of someone who went through the muck, if you will, but came out on top. We love to hear about those stories. It's just hard to sometimes translate that ideal into our own selves.
Well, I love this quote from, it was a Harvard commencement, and it was wildly popular. Now it's in a book, but it says, failure meant a stripping away of the inessential, and she stopped pretending that she was anything than what she was, and then she directed her energy into finishing the work. And I think what's magical about this is that with failure, it helps us strip away, like she said, the unessential.
There's that focus.
Yes, and there's part of that quote that isn't there, but says that had she been successful at anything else, truly successful, she may not have put her energy into that. So failure is a blessing and a benefit in the sense that it can help us cull out, what do I really want to put my energy toward, and then how can I best do that? Whereas before, we may have just been scattered and just out there.
I love that quote. That almost gives you chills, especially knowing the path she went through to get to where she is.
So good.
You also point out failure can lead to an increase in creativity because you're forced to think outside of the box in some cases.
Oh yeah, it's that whole mother necessity, and I think personally that is motherhood, having been in it for 24 years. But I'm telling you, this mother necessity creativity thing is fabulous. Like you think about Ruth Tollhouse, who ran the Toll House Inn, and the travelers would come and she would feed them, and one of them was cookies, and she had this melted chocolate cookie that she served. But one day there were so many travelers that she didn't have enough time to melt the chocolate. So she just chopped it and put it in the dough.
I've never heard this story.
Oh yes, a true story. And so it created the American classic. What would we do without chocolate chip cookies in our daily life?
Toll House.
Thank you, Ruth. And her fail. Can you imagine her sweating and going, oh, I don't have anything to serve. Just chop it.
The Toll House chocolate chip cookie came from a fail.
Exactly. Toll House. That's right. It's a shameless plug for the chocolate chip. Oh yeah, absolutely. And when you think about that, there are so many inventions and successes that come from having failed at the usual way of doing it. Blessing.
Failure also opens us up, woman to woman, to connect, right? There's something about, and you don't want to get caught up in that negativity trap of woe is me and whine, whine, whine. But there is something about being vulnerable. We hear that word a lot as well, being authentic and sharing yourself that allows you to connect with other hearts.
Absolutely. And if women will do that, I swear, if we can break through that shame barrier where instead of looking at this scarlet D for divorce or scarlet C for wayward child or scarlet F for financial crisis, if we can get over that shame and connect with similar women who are going through those situations and in a safe way, be able to share that, man, we get compassion, strength, support, and we get tools. We learn how did they do it. When I had my Asperger's son, I was just reaching for women who in real time were dealing with it. Not a book written by a man who didn't have children, no offense, that didn't have any Asperger children, but someone who was going through it in real time. That helped me be able to take the tools and say, I got this, and then become more successful.
You talk about sharing in a safe way, and that's the only aspect of this vulnerability movement, if you will, that gives me pause, because I think it's so easy to tip the line and suddenly become this negative, right? To connect in a negative way, and to whine and to vent, and it almost takes over the relationship. So how do you keep it safe, keep it positive, while still being authentic and vulnerable and breaking through those barriers?
Yes, ask yourself, is this improving my situation? If what I'm doing right now, is it improving? Is it making me move forward? And if it is, if it's just keeping you in the swirl of commiseration, it's not going to get you anywhere. But that's why it's important to be with women who have moved beyond that. Maybe they're 5 steps farther ahead. They can turn around and say, I was there and here's what I did. And you go, oh, that's it. That's what I'm going to use. And then you come back and you celebrate rather than commiserate. You go, wow, that worked. And you learn from a little bit more.
Positives through failure. I love this conversation. I love this topic. Thank you so much. And speaking of that female connection, you've got a great thing going, bringing women together to just have these kind of enriching conversations.
Yes, 25 women got together who had had different fails every day to the heartbreaking and said, we want to share what we've learned, wrote a book, asked me to contribute a chapter. Now there's a conference success summit. And so I'm giving away 10 free tickets. First people on there, go to the website, just click on, you know exactly what to do. Go to ConnieSokol.com, click the link, get a free ticket, all-day conference. You're going to learn all the tips on how to turn a failure into a strong success and be better than before.
How rewarding that will be for those 10 lucky women who grab those tickets. So go to ConnieSokol.com for that opportunity. Thank you, our friend. We love it. Thanks.